can call the meeting to order. All right, do you want to take roll call, Kevin, again, or?
I will, yes. All right, so for the record, in attendance at tonight's meeting, we have, I'm just letting somebody else in here. Chair Jen Insaldi.
Here.
Jerry Doherty. Here. Kate Fournier.
Here.
And Micah Burhart.
Here.
Also in attendance, it looks like we have Pam Stimson from the SAU, Kevin Richard. We have Frank Benish. We have note taker Melissa Donaldson, John Stokey, Darlene Ference. And I think that's Mike. It says Mike and Nora. I think that might
Mike
be.
Tupelo. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's all yours, Jen.
All right, we'll skip the salute to the flag. Public hearing on expenditures of CARES Act funds. Get right to that, or do you want to?
Sure. I can give you a little bit of a background. This is the ESSER, or the CARES Fund. So this is the federal grant that went to the state, and then we applied for this grant. Jackson, the allocation was $9,808.78. There's a formula that was divvied up. It's based on the Title I allocation, so things like free and reduced hot lunch do weigh into that. It's not a huge amount of money, not nearly enough to cover the costs of the expenditures due to COVID-19. The majority of the money, I'll kind of break it out. We had $800 for software to help support remote instruction, distance learning. You had another $5,506 for new computers and computer equipment. $1,372 for general supplies, including cleaning supplies, you name it, personal protective equipment. And then you had $1,000 for operation and maintenance of plant and services. And then you had some money for about $1,130 for staffing, planning. So as you can see, $9,000 doesn't go real far. I know that there have been other purchases that have taken place, but the purpose of this public hearing is so that we can expend all of those dollars and then ask for some more.
All right, any questions? Sorry, I missed Melissa's bailing out. Okay, sorry. All right. Anybody else have any questions on the CARES Act funds? No? Okay. Move to approve minutes from 9/21/20.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any adjustments need to be made? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Jen Insaldi,
Yes.
Jerry Doherty,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Micah.
Yes.
Unanimous, Melissa, 4-0.
Citizen comments? Anybody have anything yet? All right, moving on. Presentation of school programs and FYI items.
I have none.
Gail, nothing? All right. Old business, we have the tuition contract, the high school. I do have our candidates lined up to send to Kevin, so I feel confident with them. I'm very excited. We have Sasha Tracy has agreed to be on the board. She does have some limitations, but I think they'll be fine by the time the board gets rolling or the subcommittee is moving along. So, and then Jessica DeVal is also going to be taking part in it. So I'm excited to have her background brought to the table for that. And then I'm throwing Jerry under the bus here. So Jerry, I know we briefly spoke about it, but I'd really like you to be the school board member to be on the tuition contract board. Now I see you, Jerry. Thank you.
I'm happy to do that, Jen.
Yeah, I think you'd be perfect. So those are our three people, and obviously Jerry or any of the other members, if they can't make a meeting, they can tap in, and one of us can, from the board, will try their best to make it in place of and be active, well, and supportive as we move forward with this. So I'm excited with the three candidates we have. I'm psyched. All right. Any other questions on the tuition contract issue, topic? No. All right, so we're going to jump into interviewing the school board candidates. We actually have two people who have so generously volunteered to be on the school board with us for the remainder of Keith's term, which brings us to March. So it's kind of like a short-term fill-in, which is great. And if they so choose, and if we're nice enough to them, they may go up for re-election, which would be lovely. We've never had this situation before where we actually have two people who are involved. So I can't thank both of them, Darlene and Mike, enough for throwing their hats in the ring to be supportive in the community and to be active on the school board. It's just an awkward situation. I do feel slightly awkward about doing this public interview with both of you here, and then we will be more or less voting on one of you tonight during the meeting to come on board to the school board member. But just to start off with, I can't thank you both enough for throwing your hat in the ring. And I do appreciate both of you already just for showing up and being there for the school board and for our community. So with that being said, we have some questions we're gonna ask, and the school board members are allowed to ask any question. A question needs to be asked to both of the candidates at the same time, not at the same time, but the same question to each candidate. And then we'll go from there. So I'm just gonna ask, I'm gonna throw it out and we'll go with Darlene first. Experience with school boards.
Good evening.
Yep.
I have been a teacher in Southern Connecticut since 1972. And in my final position before I retired in 2016, I was in a school for 24 years. And during that time, I served as the teacher to the Board of Education for 3 years. So I sat on that Board of Education. I was able to see our weekly meetings, oftentimes as budget crisis came through, as well as monthly meetings, and I was able to attend there. It's a much larger school system than Jackson, with 6 elementary, 2 middle, and a high school of about 2,800 students. So I was able to be very active in that.
Great. Thank you, Darlene. Mike, I believe you are with us.
Yeah, hello, I'm here.
Hey.
Hi. I do not have any direct experience with working on a school board, but I have been in education for 20 years, primarily in outdoor education and environmental science. So I've not worked with a school board directly, but I do have 3 kids currently at Jackson Grammar. So I feel like I do have a vested interest.
Absolutely. Thank you. Just wanted to review the time commitment that's involved with being on the board. So we would like, we have a meeting every 3rd Monday of the month. It lasts approximately an hour, hour and a half. We also have SAU 9 meetings as well. They happen usually on a Thursday, I believe the 2nd or 3rd, 4th, I'm not sure. It's always a surprise to me. But meeting of the month. Then we have subcommittees that we would ask people to jump in and be part of as well. Currently, most of them are Zoom meetings. So we are looking for someone who can be active in those meetings. So with that in mind, Mike and Darlene, Mike first, do you feel that you would be able to supply that time or commit to that time?
Yes, I do.
Darlene?
Yes, I've been attending your meetings for the last few months, and I did put my name up for one of your committees, and I am sure at this point in time, getting things started for the school year, that hasn't transpired. But yes, I'd be available for those meeting times and willing to serve on your committees.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to put it out with anybody else on the board have a question that you would like to ask the candidates before I ask my next one? No. All
I
right.
think from my side, Jen, I'll step in.
All right.
Um,
Getting really
so-
loud, Micah. Go ahead.
So I just joined the board in March, and I just want to take it another step with what Jen asked about time, because I think that I've been surprised at how much of a time commitment it is. And I want to just share that my experience has been that it's considerable, and also because a lot of stuff happens in the evenings. And so I've been adjusting around that. And I think that what can help us is having some flexibility. And I've tried to do that with subcommittees that I'm on, and also have sometimes come up against it. So having the flexibility to attend things at night and during the day. And I think that when I sat outside the board, I thought of it as the school board meetings that I was going to, and then inside the board, I see it as all the different places that you plug into. So perhaps could you speak to other commitments that you have, or if you think that, like, what's the right way to put this? Like, given that, does that change your prior answer, or could you speak more to like kind of how you? I don't want to ask something that's inappropriate, like what else are you serving on, but more to get a sense of how this would fit in your landscape in your life right now.
Oops, there we go. Mike, you want
Who
to
would
take?
you,
Sure. So I suppose the biggest commitment I have right now is I have 3 children under 9. So that's a lot of time. I'm also on the Conservation Commission. So I do serve for the past 10 years. I've been on another board in town. We meet Mondays as well, but it's not the third Monday. I think it's the first Monday. And I have a full-time job in education. So in realizing that it is a big time commitment, I would say that I feel like I'm pretty steeped in that. And I spend 90% of my day thinking about pedagogical theory to begin with, just for my work. And so the fact that it would be an extension of that afterwards isn't too far of a stretch. But I do appreciate you putting that out there, and just being very upfront with the amount of time it takes to be on the board. So I do appreciate that question.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Darlene?
I also appreciate the question. Until October 1st of this year, I was the president of Mount Washington Valley Kiwanis, and that has ended. So I had a lot of commitment time with that, running that organization for the past year. I am also a court-appointed special advocate. That time is very flexible. It's not on a regular schedule. I write court reports. I attend court. I'm an advocate currently for 2 children and a peer for an adult that is a new CASA. But I am retired. My husband and I live in Jackson, and I have time during the day, during the evenings, and I'm able to fit the schedules in, whatever might happen as far as schedules of meetings.
Awesome. I just want to add, like, I think it's the coolest thing that we have both of you. I thank you both for being here and for volunteering to jump in, especially mid-flow. So thank you for that. And hopefully, as Jen was saying, it's sort of a wild thing to be doing right now, but just hopefully you can both at some point serve on the board, because it seems like you both have really incredible skill sets to bring to the board.
I wish I could.
I was just going to say, I second that with Micah. It's the kind of thing where when I joined the board, I did not realize, I think I was the only person. and it was like, I responded to it. It was a huge discussion in our family as business owners, community members, all of things. And I definitely didn't realize, I should have known, because I take things seriously and my commitments to heart, but I didn't realize what kind of time commitment it would be. And the evenings with the young children can be really hard. But I do want to say that when I joined the board, I was like, oh, I'm a former educator. I'm going to learn a lot. This is going to be a really neat way to get insight into our school community and show how much I'm invested into our kids here. I'm sorry, I had a point. And I just lost it. But it's the pandemic. I did not foresee a pandemic, and this being a incredibly stressful thing to sit on and an incredible weight to bear. And so in all of that, to have two people at this time willing to join is just, it's fantastic. And thank you both so much. It's really great.
I wish we could just expand the board and accept both. Can we do that, Kevin? No.
I don't think so, Jen.
Does anybody have another question before my next question? No, just gonna leave me out to dry. Okay, guys.
I can ask, I'll throw another one in there, Jen, which is, would either of you, could you see a board term that goes beyond this temporary term? Is that something that you're interested in for, would you then put your hat in the ring to run? Because to be clear, this is something that then the seat is a temporary vacancy. And then the question would be, would you run for it again in March at this point? Would you anticipate that?
Darlene, you go first this time?
Yes, I do anticipate if this were to fall in my hands, then I would be on the election ballot for the March election.
Mike?
I was not planning to. I guess I was kind of under the assumption that the school board needed somebody just to fill in. And I guess I didn't really realize there was another person that was interested. So my plan was not to, just because of, I don't really want to run in an election. And being on the Conservation Commission as well, I just wanted to see what the balance felt like at first. And I think, as I'm kind of speaking and thinking out loud here, I think that just to avoid what to me feels a little weird is I'm probably just going to withdraw from my candidacy from this slot, just to make things easier. One of the questions that I had is, I don't even know what I'm technically, I think I'm a contractor with the school, and I didn't know what that was. Like one of my questions, if I can even serve on the board as a contractor. So I didn't know if that's possible.
Well, for future information, Kevin, can he?
Yeah, sure. He could. You would have to, there's potential where you would have to recuse yourself from certain things, but that would not prohibit you, especially in a small town like this. Sometimes there's only one electrician in town, and you really need to hire an electrician. So it depends on what it is. Yeah, but as long as everything's transparent and above board, there's usually no issue whatsoever. You would just abstain from any vote that you could potentially benefit from.
Mike, can we make a formal request that you, when there's another opportunity, that you consider joining again?
Sure. Yeah. And my wife and I just got roped into being heavily involved in the PTO, so I'm sure that we'll be involved. And
Yay.
We're at the pretty regular anyway with 10 Mountain. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say thank you. But I'm gonna withdraw. So,
Well, Mike, thank you so much for even thinking of it. I can't.
Mike.
Wonderful. So thank you, and please stay active, and I'll be looking forward to the PTO information and such like that. So thank you very much.
all right, take care.
And if I could just say, I would like to thank both of you for putting your name in the ring here. It's really important for a community our size for people to be active, and it's nice to see people being active. I would say, as someone who's been put through the ringer a few times in this town in elections, they're really not scary. It's not a hard thing to actually run for a seat. I've been selectman in this town, went through a contentious election for that. I've been a school board member several times and ran for this seat. And even when people oppose you, it's easy to live with. And it's the kind of town that does support people who volunteer for these positions, even when they don't like your positions. They'll still come out and tell you, hey, I don't support your positions, and therefore I'm going to vote against you. But afterwards, we still get beers at the Shenandoah. It's not a hard thing to go through some of these contentious elections. So don't let that be a barrier to future elections that you might want to put your name in for.
Oh, Jerry, I forgot to mention, I am a library trustee, and I've been through one election in Jackson, and yeah, I found that the idea was intimidating to begin with, but having been through that once with the library, hopefully some of that intimidation will have gone away by March.
Yeah. It is a very supportive town. they do appreciate your community involvement on many levels, whether or not
Mhm.
they agree with your position. Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. All right. Thank you. I was very nervous all day, so thank you.
And my question was, does Mike know that Darlene has her name in the ring already?
He should have known, but that's okay. So we're very happy. So if we would like to make a vote at this point in time to accept Darlene, I don't know if we need to make a vote on that. Now that we have Darlene.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to appoint Darlene Ferentz as a Jackson School Board member.
I second it.
All right. All those in favor?
Jen Insaldi,
Yes.
Jerry Doherty,
Yes.
Kate Fournier,
Yes.
and Micah.
Yes.
All right. Now, does Darlene start this moment or does she start?
No, she has to go to be sworn in by somebody at the
Yes, I
select.
know. I'm just teasing.
We'll be in touch with you to fill out some paperwork, get you sworn in, and Darlene, we'll go through. I'll set up a time where we can go through just a new board member orientation. For you, it'll be kind of old hat, but I can spend a little bit of time with you.
That's great, Kevin. And I'm in Kennebunkport, Maine, enjoying my 45th wedding anniversary. So I'm going to probably sign off once you give me the okay here. That's all right.
Enjoy your wedded bliss. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I will be in touch.
Thanks, Darlene.
Thanks,
All right.
Darlene. Phew, that was much easier than I thought. Okay.
Jen.
Yeah. First reading of policies. ABA, community involvement. Kate, do you have any input on this one since you were the one who attended the meeting for us?
Jen, before we jump into that, I'll just make a motion to for the first reading of the community involvement
Oh, thank you. Okay.
policy.
Second. All right. So ABA community involvement. Anybody have any questions? Kate, you want to go?
I can't get it on my, I have Kevin's screen and you guys. And so this was something I can't remember. Did Jackson have this before?
No, it just has Jackson on the bottom. So we
Okay.
haven't had it before. It's new for us.
I think that it was Bartlett has this as a policy. And we spoke about it in the meeting as something that is just laying out that community involvement is very much welcome, and just putting kind of a little bit of a formal stamp on the fact that community involvement and just proactive participation is something that the Jackson School Board appreciates and welcomes.
Okay. All those I mean, we don't need to. We're past for first reading. This is the first reading. So a motion to make it past a second reading. Jerry, go ahead.
Well, it would just be going on to the second reading. It's just accepting the reading of it, basically. It formalizes it into the agenda. I'm actually opposed to this policy. I just don't think it's quite necessary. And there's some words in there that kind of do give me a little bit of concern, like the advice of the public will be given consideration. I'm not sure that we always want to be giving consideration to the advice of people from the public. And I mean, I know this isn't a binding kind of policy, but it's something we should be doing for sure, but I'm not quite sure why we need to formalize it into policy. And there's just words in there that do kind of concern me so I would be voting against this policy.
And that's great, Jerry. I was actually in this meeting without Gail or Jen and just with Bartlett folks and Katie. And so I think that this is a great conversation to have because it definitely was something that I was like, it looked like we don't have one. Do we want to encourage this with, like I was standing on my own and just kind of questioning it. And if it's not something that we want to adopt, I'm totally behind that too. Or if we want to rewrite it to be more inclusive for Jackson specific, that's okay too.
I kind of feel with Jerry, I don't know if we necessarily need it. I mean, we are so inclusive with the community already. I'm not sure if it's really needed at this point in time.
I agree with that. I think that it's not and potentially sort of having it might hamstring us in some ways that we're not anticipating. And I think that, yeah, I agree with that.
I think that's great. I think let's move forward not having a policy on this and kind of operating as we do.
So all those in favor of not accepting ABA?
It has to be a positive motion, but you can vote it down. Okay?
All right, so all those in favor of
Motion
accepting.
is to move it forward.
Yeah, to moving ABA forward to the second reading.
So if you don't want to do that, you're going to vote no.
Correct. So no,
So Jen, no.
thank you.
Jerry,
No.
Kate,
No,
and Micah.
Nope.
Wow, you guys, that's good that you say no every once in a while. That's a good thing.
Hey, there you go. Shocker.
thanks guys. I needed you on that one. I appreciate it.
So when I can see what's next, but I know it's the
All
goal
right.
setting session there. We're gonna go back up. Okay, what is it, BA? Okay, all those in favor or a motion to accept for the first reading, BA policy?
I'd make a motion for the first reading of the school board self-evaluation and goal setting policy.
Second. Okay, discussion?
Jen, I might start by just saying I like this policy. I think it's a good policy. I mentioned to you before that I had developed a kind of much more extensive policy for the Jackson School Board to consider. I haven't sent it to you yet. I'm not sure why. I looked for it on this computer. I couldn't find it. I think it's on my old laptop, so I have to go back and find it again. But I think it's something that would go along well with us anyway. But we haven't updated our school board policy basically since like 1985 or something like that. So there's a lot of things in there that could use some updating. This type of thing is one of them, I think. I think that maybe before next meeting, I'll get it to you, Jen, and to Kevin, to take a look at and consider, adopting that type of policy. Basically, I took it from the Concord School District School Board policy and what the State School Board Association has put together. It's basically just updating and making much more extensive. It explains much. Gail actually goes back to something that you had given to us in an email when we were discussing kind of, when we were struggling through like how is the school board supposed to act, and you had sent that email out to us from the State School Board Association, and it's basically kind of formalizing all of those things into a more coherent policy for us to follow. And it does kind of clarify, I think, a lot of things for like what new school board members might be wondering: how is the school board supposed to operate? How do we get things on the agenda? And those types of things. So I'll send it to you all at some point anyway, so that we can start considering it anyway. But I think this goes along quite nicely with that. And I like this policy, so I will be supporting it anyway.
I love this policy, so yes, I'll be supporting this. And Jerry, I'd be interested in maybe we can morph the two if there's anything, or adapt yours in another situation. So please dig out your computer and find it. So we should move forward in voting. Anybody have any other discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor of moving policy BA, school board self-evaluation and goal setting, forward for second reading?
Jen and Solly,
Yes, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Micah.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't know what's next because I didn't print out the thing.
Sorry. I'll get it. Second, just recording the votes.
Take your time.
FYI, 7A.
All right, appoint of Holly Reed as long-term substitute teacher.
That's just an FYI. Yeah.
All right, increase hours of food service employee. Any question on that? Gail, you want to just remind us? I think it was a couple hours.
Yes, am I off? Yeah, no, I'm good.
You're good.
When we divided the students into cohorts and are keeping them together for lunch, we found we used to feed everybody all at the same time, and they'd all be in a long line in the hallway and cram into that little kitchen and go back to their classrooms. But now we're keeping the classrooms separate, so it means that Lisa has to do 2 servings of lunch because we're also cleaning and sanitizing the tables between each group. So there's a 10 or 15 minute window between each group that eats. So that means that Lisa's needing an extra hour in her day to do the 2 servings and wait till they're all finished and then clean up after them. So I'd like to get that formalized, to have another hour, at least on a temporary basis. If we ever go back to all eating in the school at once, she may not need all of those hours, but right now during the COVID cohort, to maintain that cohort, we'll need to pay her some extra time.
I definitely approve that. I know how efficient Lisa is, so I would assume that this is more than needed. So I'm good with approving it. Do we need to make a vote on this?
Make a motion to increase the hours of the food service employee by 1 hour.
All right. All those in favor? Yes. Yep.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Micah.
Yes.
Moving on to the budget status report. Anybody have any questions on that? Nope. Okay. We do need to make a motion to request approval for the $9,000 withdrawal from the Whitney Maintenance Trust Fund. This goes back to an issue beforehand. So all those.
So make a motion to request the withdrawal of $9,000 from the Whitney Maintenance Trust Fund.
I can second.
Great. All those in favor?
Jen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Micah.
Yes.
All right. Signing of letter to trustee of trust funds. This is what Lily included in the message, right?
Yeah, just basically you're authorizing the chair to sign the letter to withdraw the funds. That's all. You already.
Make a motion to authorize the chair, Jen and Solly, to sign the letter to the trustee of trust funds.
I'm in favor. I'm good.
Need a second?
Second.
There you go. All those in favor? Jen,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and Micah.
Yes.
Kevin, before we move on, or Jen, before we move on, when it comes to the trustee of the trust funds, I think it'd probably be a smart thing for us to have a meeting with the selectmen and the trustees of the trust fund and the school board at some point. I mean, I don't know whether it's this year or sometime next year, but we ran into that problem with the school bus funds being withdrawn,
Yeah.
which makes it a little challenging for us sometimes if we're trying to manage the tax rate and then have interference from them with that sort of thing. So it would be nice, and this is one thing that I addressed in the policy for the school board, is it addresses this type of thing, which our current policy actually does as well. But it just kind of clarifies and formalizes a process by which we do this. And it would just be nice to have the trustees of the trust funds on board for what we might be trying to do, so that they understand that we might be requesting this money because we're trying to mitigate taxes versus what they're trying to do. And it kind of formalizes where, currently in our policy, it says that these funds are first supposed to be made safe and secure, which the trustees of the trust fund do a phenomenal job of. So we're covered there. But then it comes to being the next thing that our policy requests is that they're available. If we run into interference with the trustees of trust funds with how available our funds are, that might be an issue. So I just think it'd be smart at some point in time to sit down in a meeting with the trustees of the trust and the selectmen to kind of just formalize how these things go through, and so that we are all on the same page as to what our role is, what their role is, and how we manage these things.
I will put that on the list of things to do, but I think, and we should, I'd like to have Lily involved in that meeting as well. It would be a great opportunity for her to even by Zoom see people and explain her point. So that's an excellent idea, Jerry. Thank you. The more we can work together collaboratively, the better off we are.
Because I'm a little bit concerned that they might deny this request, and I kind of question what their authority to do that is. I mean, my understanding is that they don't have the authority to deny legitimate requests, and that their back end needs to have to say, well, you already paid for this, so it can't come out of that. I think they would be in the wrong there, but that's kind of what they did with the school bus, and I'd like to avoid that happening in the future.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move forward and set that up as a second meeting, hopefully this month. Thank you, Jerry. That's awesome. And, all right, Superintendent, Cooperative School District Planning Committee.
You already took care of that, Jen, way before. Yeah,
Great.
just a quick update. I think I addressed the COVID response in the last one, and everyone seems to be doing as well as they can on kind of moving forward, but different audience. So I just want to reiterate that. One of the key pieces is the communication out of information regarding COVID-19, and I know the newspaper gave me a hard time, but I won't identify any students, or they can do whatever they want. But as far as pushing it out, I try to, when this information comes to me, in today's day and age, it's really, really difficult to communicate out in different parcels, so different groups. So I'll do the best that I can to communicate out to everybody, and that includes students. Sometimes I'll give a heads up to the board member if it's critical information. But the timeliness of this was extremely important. I think we sent out information about 2 o'clock. You guys, I sent out 2:05. Real quickly. But if there's ever follow-up questions, please call me up. Let me know. And you have my cell phone number. But really, just we want to make sure we communicate out accurate information as well. And I think that's critical in these times. So, but if there's ever a question, follow-up, please give me a call. And if I can share information, I will. If I can, I won't do that. But that's really important. The other thing is you'll see an audit engagement letter. Basically, that's the auditing company, that you have. They want to sign up for another 3 years, keeping the rate exactly the same. They cut a deal for the smaller districts and they do all the different, we've used them for a number of years. So I just want to make you aware that we're going to continue unless I hear otherwise from you folks.
Well, if you guys are happy with them, then we're good with it. Yep.
But other than that, I don't have any other new business, I guess.
And Kevin, to your point, since there's a new audience with the COVID information and the way it was passed out, I can't commend you guys enough. It was an excellent job. I didn't have anybody in the community come to me with any issues, any questions, anything like that. It was all handled very professionally and very timely. So I am even more confident with our plan at this point. So thank you for all you guys are doing. Kate?
I think this is a new audience where you shared the nurses kind of update and how that's being utilized in the state. I thought that was really impressive and the community might want to know.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did do was we obviously learned from this, but kudos to our nurses. Helen Kroll, who services both Bartlett and Jackson, has been working with our nurses. Pam Stimson kind of chairs that group, and we learned tremendously from them. They are in constant communication with, Dr. Chan from the New Hampshire Department of Public Health. And as Pam Stimson said earlier in the other meeting, they developed the response protocols and they revised those even after this event. And now it's the model plan for the state of New Hampshire. So, hooray for those folks. And they have been worth their weight in gold and continue to do so, putting in tremendous amount of hours. I know that our nurses at the high school were making phone calls till 9 o'clock at night, contact tracing. I was saying that the Department of Public Health is kind of been overwhelmed a little bit in the southern part. So that contact tracing really came back to, groups of people, and Pam looking at bus routes and looking at seating plans, and fortunately everything was in there to determine, who was in real close contact for a period of time and who should be quarantined and who was okay. So just really everybody's working real hard and they want to keep the kids in school and they want to keep the students and staff healthy and safe, and they're doing everything that they can. So great job by all those folks.
And I just also wanted to, on that point, thank you for sending out the letter about holiday travel.
Yes, so appeal to the general public, right? This is superintendent speaking to the community here. The staff have understood that as well. We want to do everything that we can to keep our students in school. I did take a tour of a couple of schools. Kids are doing what they need to be doing. We as adults need to continue to do that. I'm not telling anybody what they need to do because that's not me, but we would appreciate that everybody in the community is doing what they can to keep our students and staff healthy. And that includes, travel restrictions. We've all been inconvenienced by a tremendous amount over the past, 7-8 months, and we will continue to be. We're in this for the long haul. And if we do want our students to remain in school, we need to be vigilant about protecting ourselves and doing everything that we can. So right now, the quarantine is outside of New England. If you travel, you come back, you're going to be out for 14 days. You cannot test out of quarantine. And I think that's critical. People need to understand that. Even if you come back with negative tests, it doesn't matter. You're going to be out for 14 days. Our staff are committed to doing everything they can. So we just ask that people take that into consideration when they're thinking about holiday plans and moving forward.
I had a question here, actually. Just the other day, I had asked Gail just like a point of clarification on something that I wanted to make sure that I was following a rule correctly. And I received a kind of subject to change about New England. And my question is, how do you all, I know at the SAU level, as Massachusetts continues to tick up. So we have families in our school that they have a parent going to the greater Boston area for their work. We have new families that have a parent or more going down more often, or a parent that travels for work. How does that get decided? And do you all have like metrics for your decision making? And just so that I feel like it's a good reminder for our community that kind of has to bop around for work to have a little bit of a more clear understanding, so that we can communicate that to families that might be impacted on their personal level.
That's a great question, Kate, and I'll try to speak to it. So, there are a number of different factors, and I take a look at the numbers all the time, right? So if you go on to, and I shared it out as part of the reentry plan, there are different factors that we take a look at. We've color-coded those. Green is you're relatively healthy. Yellow is a little bit more of a concern. Orange is a significant concern, and then red is really that means there's major things going on. In looking at both the state and also the Harvard pandemic websites, I take a look at both of those. And what we try to take a look at is that moving 14-day cases. And, right now, believe it or not, if you were to go on the state site for Department of Health and Human Services, and Pam and I were looking at it this morning, that Carroll County is still, knock on wood here, in relatively good shape, right? So the numbers, the highest we've seen in Carroll County was back in September 12th, and there were 2.0 cases per 100,000, right? And then they drop down, and usually it's 2 is one of those things you start really paying attention to. And we're at 1.2 today, right? So the number of new cases, and of course you move further north and you have a smaller population, that becomes more of a concern. The other part is the staffing, our staffing. And I have to tell you, parents are doing a great job. If the nurses are saying, hey, look, your kids are showing some symptoms, we don't know what it is, they're getting their students tested. The staff are doing that, and we have a lot of negative tests coming back. So, we had 2 reports today from Memorial Hospital and from Saco River Medical Group. and they tested over 90 at one place and 100 and something at the other. And they had 2 cases that did pop up. So the numbers are really pretty small over weeks worth of time. And we do take that into consideration. As far as, you're right, Kate, that's always my concern, right? So if I go to upstate New York, right, where there's a very low numbers, I have to quarantine. But yet if I go to a bigger city where maybe some of these hotspots are starting to develop within New England or Maine or Massachusetts, so it's very tough. We do follow those CDC guidelines, but I will tell you, tomorrow morning we do meet with the doctors. We have kind of in the local superintendents, we do review what's going on. And I defer to the medical experts, right? So we defer to CDC, Department of Health and Human Services, and then we also depend very, very closely with our medical experts. And I will tell you, when we were going through the COVID experience last week, both the doctors, I picked up the phone, they were back to me within like 5 minutes. They've just been, I can't say enough about the medical community. So we follow those guidelines, and you know, as things go on, we are paying attention to those conditions. But as you know, it's a busy community up here too, and we don't know where all those folks are coming in.
Can I throw a question at? I appreciate the depth that you just went into there. Is there still the understanding that parents can go to those places, but kids cannot? That sort of murky space. How is that being handled?
Yeah, no, they can. And so the quarantining piece really is if you are either have the symptoms, right, or you are in direct contact with somebody who has a positive COVID case, then you have to quarantine. Doesn't mean your kids do, right? So that's kind of this funky. You're once funky from it, yeah. And I will tell you that most people, in my experience so far, have been erring on the side of caution.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I mean, there is sort of this space for parents to be able to do something without it implicating their kids. And yeah, it's funky. I appreciate all of the work you're all doing to make it happen and possible for everybody to do what they need to do here and keep us safe.
And if I can just jump in, I have had several phone calls from parents asking that question. I'm traveling to this place. What do I need to do? I'm going here. And so they're asking, and they're being thoughtful, and they're following the directions that they're getting from Helen, who is, she is the ultimate sort of decision maker in terms of making sure she communicates so that everybody's getting the same messages clearly about what's okay and what's not okay. So it's not always making people happy, what they're hearing. But I get the sense that at least those people who are talking to me about it are being honest. And even if unhappy, when we say, well, no, you'll have to quarantine for 2 weeks before you can come back, or 14 days, it wouldn't be quite 2 weeks if you include the weekends. But I've seen most people being really concerned about keeping everybody safe. So
It's good to hear.
That's been good.
Yeah, I think that is good to hear, and I just wanted to thank you both too for executing these plans. I mean, I know they're complicated and they've been hard, and you're often delivering, bad news to people, as you say, information you don't necessarily want to hear. But thanks for having the courage to stand up and actually deliver that information, because in terms of traveling and things like that, it does seem like people are trying to do the right thing, and that is very encouraging. But it's also very encouraging to know what you're doing on the school side of stuff. And the more and more that I learn about this, it's the plan that you've put in place, both Gail at Jackson Grammar School and Kevin throughout the whole district. It's really looks like it's the best practices that we can do to try to keep ourselves safe. And thanks for all the effort that you've put into it.
Well, you're very welcome. We care about the kids. So want to keep everybody in it, and I care about the staff too, and want to keep them moving forward and doing the best possible work that they can do. And in order to bring the education to the kids, I need to have healthy staff as well. So we're all in it together, as the saying goes. I know we have, just to kind of piggyback a little bit about what Joe said, I have met with Emily Benson regarding Nordic skiing, and I've been in touch with John Fischera and Neil about ESSC. We don't have any answers or a plan in place at this time, but John has shared with me some of the Ski America or Ski New Hampshire kind of guidelines that he's going to need to follow. I've made some requests of what I see we might need to do in order to feel at all safe going up into the mountain. The Nordic is the same thing. We're going to try, I think, to get PE to be our Nordic program, but it will look very different from what you are used to. The small groups, you know, with all kinds of volunteers is probably not going to be what it's going to look like. But we do want to get kids outside and on the snow if we can. So we're working to come up with the best possible plan. And all of the administrators are meeting with ESSC next week to try to iron out some of those details to see how it would work. For what I've got here on the agenda, as Kevin, I think, brought up at the last meeting, we are very fortunate in Jackson. Our bandwidth and our server have been working well and keeping everybody connected. We've been doing our all-school meetings on Thursdays with the whole school community, including the remote students. We haven't invited parents in just because of security concerns. But we have been trying as much as we can to stay connected with those kiddos. All of the classrooms have been outfitted with webcams, so the remote students can participate in some of the in-class events with their classmates. It's not really the same, but it at least enables us all to say hello to them several times a week. So in that, we feel very fortunate and want to thank all of you for being supportive over the years of our budget, going way back to Anne and her forward thinking in terms of putting a technology plan together and budgets that gradually increased our capacity to use technology, to the teachers who've been willing to go out and get that professional development and take some risks and try some new things. Our new media specialist has brought us a lot of really great extensions we can use within the Google Classroom to enhance our instruction for kids both in the class as well as out of the class. So the teachers have already set up a Google Classroom and they're teaching kids how to go in and out of it. So hopefully if we do ever have to have a class quarantine or heaven forbid a whole school quarantine, we'll be ready to go with technology without much of a gap or a delay in the learning. So to that end, we have some really serviceable but older technology that is in the basement. And Kevin, did you see a list? Allison was to get me a list of the particular hardware that was down in the basement that we would be willing to donate to the Bartlett School. Who?
Yeah, I don't have an inventory, Gail.
I'm going to have to get that to you, and I apologize. I will get that from Allison and try to get that sent to you. But as you may or may not know, Allison is now working part-time to help Bartlett get through their loss of their technology coordinator. And she has noted some gaps in terms of availability of hardware for students and asked me how I felt about the unused computers in the basement being donated. So we would propose to donate those pieces of technology to the Bartlett School if you so approve that. Again, I apologize that we don't have a list of the equipment with the numbers.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to donate the retired technology to the Josiah Bartlett Elementary School.
Second.
Yep. All those in favor?
Ken,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
and Micah.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like we're the Brady Bunch with the
I know.
It does look a little bit like that. Thank you, everybody. I'm sure that will benefit all the kiddos over there.
Thanks for doing that. That's
As
awesome.
well as keeping our students kind of cutting edge right up at the forefront of using technology in their educational process. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Never anything bad to say. All right.
I just realized Micah and Kate probably don't even know who the Brady Bunch are.
Not fair, Jerry. We know.
They've seen the reruns, I'm sure.
Oh, come now.
Committee reports, I believe we've already covered the policy committee, but Kate, do you have anything else you want to add? Okay. Board discussion, do we have anything top of mind this evening?
I did just want to mention that Mike and I have been talking a little bit about the facility committee and what's going on with the plan that we had this year for an architect to interview us and to come up with ideas. And I did speak to Jim Hill today about it, and we're still working on that. Jim was going to try to coordinate with Gail and John Stokey a time for the facility committee to meet kind of as soon as we can to kind of go through some stuff and see where we can bring that.
Okay. Micah, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, we've had a bit of a kerfuffle with the timing, and I would hope and I would like to commit to having a better update for the board for our next meeting, and for all of us who are part of the facilities committee to work to do that by that time. That'd be great. And also on the Jackson Jedi Committee, we have our first meeting tomorrow, which will be great to do. And we'll be able to share more of what that is. And I would say that something that came out of the meeting that we had for the SAU Social Justice Committee, so same thing, just different names, that Kevin actually brought up, which I thought was really well spoken, was that, you know, all the work that we are doing inside of these, it's also about speaking up. When we see something, it's also about making a change in the moment, and that fundamentally, like how we represent that as leaders of the school board, and also as you know, people who are in our community, that's what helps shift it. So one example is I've been really trying hard to say things like the select board, and this is really minor, but not the selectmen, especially in Jackson, it's not just selectmen. So, you know, like helping us all see these points where we can use more inclusive language. And I just bring that one up, not to throw you under the bus, Jerry, but you mentioned it earlier. And I think that, you know, helping us see some of this and creating that space of, hey, there's an even more inclusive way, because I know that I'm looking to learn to use some more inclusive language. And I hope that we as a board can help model that and learn with each other as we go forward with it.
Great. Okay.
That's the most important thing I think people can be doing. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Any other board discussion at this time? Kate?
I had two things. I wanted to ask a question because ESSC has been brought up a few times, and because when I sat down, I got our manifest from Lily, and I'm in our office right now. I printed it out, banged it out, sent it back to her, and heard back a little like rallying cry for if someone else could sign that this evening, she can send out checks tomorrow. And then the other thing with ESSC, I'm wondering if it's a cross community or a Jackson specific. And as the meetings for kind of planning the year haven't really started because there's so many question marks. Last year was our family's first official year kind of outside of kindergarten and part of ESSC. And when the groupings were made, I asked a question because the groups in Jackson were all based on gender and are all gender specific. And that was something that just kind of surprised me, and I wondered about, and was just told that it's just how it's always been and how it is. And I was wondering if that was something that was specific to the kind of in different schools, or if that was a Jackson kind of specific thing. And if we might just throw that on the list of things to talk about and potentially change for this coming year.
I thought it was always done on ability because Jossie was in with a bunch of boys. And so
it is done first on ability. The only thing that we do related to gender is, especially as they get older, if there's one female or one male with all opposite gender, we often will mix them to try to have at least 2 or 3 of each gender within the group, or all boys or all girls, rather than leave one individual male or female on a group where they're the only ones.
Except for Jossie. She was the only one. And she did
Well,
fine.
yes. She was
She'd
the
rather
only
be that way.
entire class,
That
but
way. Right.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you. I thank you for the clarification. It was just something that I always wondered and was something that I had wanted to ask. And that's helpful.
And I think that is one of the major things that is going to be different, is that we're going to have, in order to do that kind of grouping by ability, we're going to have to mix up all the cohorts, and I'm hesitant to do that. So I'm thinking that this year might be more just get on the skis and have fun, and not so much about your ability, maybe other than the very beginners. I know that's what we're going to do in Nordic, is the kids are going to play games on snow. There's not going to be an emphasis on speed racing and who's better and you know, who's going up to the eagle and who's not, and all of those things, just in order to maintain the cohorts. So the second grade will ski together, the third, fourth grade will ski together, and so forth. And then we're limiting the number of contacts that the kids have. That seemed to be a way to keep them safer. So
Gail, I really appreciate you going the extra distance to make sure that those sports can continue to happen. Thank you.
you're welcome. They're a big part of our school community. I
They
used to
are,
think
but
we were all crazy, but now
it's a lot of headaches from a lot of parents, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. If there's anything that we can do as the board to help with that, just let us know. Any other board discussion? All right, set date for next meeting is November 16th, 6 p.m. We've already done D. Committee assignments, I know we sent out the new list. We have some, Keith has left some vacancies. Kevin, can you scroll down to the committee assignment for me? Thank
Yep.
you.
yes, the Friends of the Whitney had made noise at the last meeting about really wanting to have a board member be part of that group. And I know it had been Micah, but then it went to Jen. I think Jen was going to fill in till the new board member was.
I didn't know they had a meeting. I didn't, sorry. Yeah. I haven't left the building in a couple of weeks, so.
Should we be doing this with our new board member, or is this where we just get to put her on stuff? Is that what happens?
We can, but I don't want to leave anything for another month. We don't have to. We could just
Put that to you, Micah.
where Keith is. Budget. So I know we're in the middle of our budget season. So I don't know if it's fair to throw Darlene onto the budget. So does anybody else want to take Keith's space on budget?
And I haven't done this before, so I'm just.
Is it also productive to do this now? Can we do this next time with the idea that Darlene will be there instead of
I just want to make sure, I just want to put in some replacements on committees that are actually active right now. So, and it wouldn't be fair to put Darlene on the budget with Micah and have two new people. So if we could just look at some things like the bus, I'm not worried about. Manifests, I'm not necessarily worried about. It's really the budget at this time.
And Jerry's on facilities now.
Right. And
I'm
Jerry,
happy to jump on budget if nobody else wants it.
Jerry, I think that would be awesome if you could do that. I can't do anymore. And that's really the only one that I see that we can't wait till the next meeting for. So I
The
think
November meeting is I typically miss November and April because we're historically closed. We'll be closed next month on staycation. And so I may or may not be able to join next month.
okay, as we get closer, we might.
Yeah, just a heads up that,
Okay.
yeah.
So was that you wanted all the committees? No, wait. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a very good point.
Yeah, I would find a way to make that meeting, Kate. I don't know. That's what I'm hearing.
All right, so thank you. So Jerry, if you could help with the budget, and if you can't make a meeting, I'll be happy to step in for you if I can. So thank you. And we'll just leave the rest until the next meeting.
I do think I remember Darlene mentioning that she said she'd be willing to do the Whitney Oversight Committee meeting a couple of meetings back.
That's right. That's what she signed up for. Yeah.
Even though Micah's on it. So Micah, you want to?
Yes, absolutely. Darlene, I nominate her.
Okay. When I give her a call tomorrow, I'll let her know the good news. And I believe she'll also help out. Yeah, so that's great. Okay. I think that was the last of our to-do list, per se. And we have the next meeting, we have all that, and then policy's good. Somebody,
Motion to adjourn.
wait, Micah, were you printing off the manifest there?
I'm not printing off the manifest. I'm putting myself my calendar, but I'm going to let that, Jen or Jerry, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to let, we're like, the
Okay.
gauntlet has been, yes.
I did it the last time. I already
Yeah.
signed some for the other day. Okay, Jerry, you made a motion. I'll second it.
Second.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Gail, Micah, see you in the morning.
Good
Kevin,
night.
Pam, so good to see you.
Ciao.
Bye, Jerry.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
Jen.
Thank you. I'm gonna go sign a manifest now. Okay.
Nice.